Hello. Hi, Mental Health on the Mighty. My name is Chrissie Hodges. Happy December. I'm here for my monthly video. Actually, I missed last month because it fell on election day. And that was a bit of a chaotic day for everybody, I think, in the world. I haven't been here since October, and I'm really glad to be back. I'm really excited to talk to you today about mental health and during the pandemic and how it's affecting our body images and how that can sometimes tie into our symptoms and living with mental health issues. But first, I just wanted to introduce to you who I am. If you haven't seen my videos before on YouTube, or follow me at Instagram at pure O Chrissie as well. I post a lot of content on OCD. I am an OCD advocate, and I am the author of Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. And I am a certified peer support specialist here in the state of Colorado. I work with individuals worldwide, providing support for OCD and anxiety. And I'm also the co-founder of, sometimes when you're looking in the camera, you'd think it would be this side. I'm the co-founder of OCD Peers, and this is a group support practice where we run groups every single day to support individuals who are living with OCD. Our website's ocdpeers.com, and we are actually going to be expanding at the beginning of next year to add groups for anxiety. People can come to groups for support for COVID, things like that. So we are going to open it up a little bit to bring people in outside of OCD, because we really, really believe a lot of people need this support right now. That's who I am. I'm also the founder and executive director of OCD Game Changers, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. And we create community and events and all kinds of things OCD. So as you can see, I'm all OCD. I am so OCD. Even though it's not cool to say that, I can say it, and it's legit. Sorry, my phone is dinging over here. I knew I should have left it outside. Anyway, I'm glad to be here today. This topic is really important to me, and something that I have been struggling with, actually. And so it's been good to talk about, but it's been really hard to talk about because it's not something that I've ever spoken about before. And it wasn't really until this pandemic came along that it really got brought to the surface for me, and I have really been struggling. So I wanted to share with you today my experience. I actually just did a YouTube video on my channel on YouTube, Chrissie Hodges, Pure OCD Advocate. So if you've seen that video, just so you know, you're just going to be kind of hearing the same stuff. Sorry for the repeat, but I really thought this was important because it doesn't just involve individuals with OCD. This is across the board what people are struggling with, whether you have mental health disorder symptoms or not. This has been a really tough year for a lot of people. And I think that every single month since things shut down, at least here in the States, that's all I can really relate to here. I know in other countries, things are very similar as well, from kind of the shock and the big change and the uncertainty that has happened because of the pandemic. But, since March, where everything went from kind of normal life to just this adaptation that none of us knew we were going to have to make. And then we've just been kind of, hanging on every month going, okay, when is this going to stop? Okay, is this is real, and we're going to keep going with this. I know that for me, in the emotional and kind of the grieving capacity, it was very much at first this will pass in a few months. It sucks right now, and I felt really emotional in a lot of different strong ways about it. And then to see that it is continued through the summer, and now here we are going into the winter months with threats of shutdown looming, revisiting what that was like for a lot of us at the beginning when things shut down and we were all over the place. It's a really scary time for people. And with those of us who live with mental health symptoms, when things like this happen, big uncertain times, we really get impacted. We've got, everybody has a lot at stake. And I'm not saying that we're special or different, but most of the time our symptoms tend to arise when we're under stressful and uncertain conditions. So this has just kind of been a time where a lot of us are kind of hanging on, hoping things will just kind of normalize, and at the same time managing our own symptoms or managing the fear that things might fall apart. So I just want you to know that I'm there walking alongside with you if that's how you've been feeling. I felt a plethora of emotions through all this. And I think since last time I was here in October, things have vastly changed in regards to, oh, wow, here we go. We're going here in the States, and I'm in Colorado. It's like we're going right back into where things were in March, and I'm really scared. And I'm here to tell you that. I don't feel as unprepared as I was obviously in March, because now it's kind of like, okay, I know what to expect. I know to stock up on toilet paper. I don't even know why. I don't know why, but like literally, like we know to do these little things, what to stock our house with, how to maintain, how to reach out and connect, make sure I'm connecting with people, how to stay active, those kind of things. So as scary as things may get, I do channel the therapy that I've had for OCD, which is understanding what's going to happen, understanding the pattern and trying to prepare for it. So there's that. But I really want to get into the topic that I am on here that I'm stalling talking about, as you can tell. I'm stalling for a couple different reasons. I want to talk about body image, BDD, which is body dysmorphic disorder. But I want to preface it with this. First of all, I am not a clinician or a therapist, so I'm not here to talk clinical at all. This is all just lived experience from my own personal journey, but also from things that I've heard from individuals I'm meeting worldwide for peer support. And there's that. And I also want you to know that I'm not talking about eating disorders. I have no expertise whatsoever in that. And so I'm not going to venture off into that lane because I don't know enough about that to be able to speak to it. So everything I am talking about right now is just kind of this, I don't want to say typical, but kind of atypical, scenario a lot of us are going through, where we are really being impacted when it comes to body image, when it comes to inactivity, not being exposed to the outside world the way that we used to be. So often now when we go out, and especially this last week with Thanksgiving, finally some people got to see relatives, or they got to be able to venture out and do stuff. It feels like there's a spotlight on you when a lot of us have just kind of been in our own little spaces, which sometimes can feel really safe. I know that not everybody's space is safe, so I don't want to assume that. But when we go out after being in a space where you feel like, okay, I'm comfortable and where I am, all of a sudden it feels this all eyes on me. And a lot of people are feeling a lot of what I just mentioned and don't really know what to do about it. So I'm just going to share with you a little bit my experience. Excuse me for 1 second. I'm going to share with you my experience over the last 8-9 months and how this has impacted me and what's really kind of inspired me to start talking about it a little bit. So I suffer with OCD, and what you may not know about OCD is it is not all contamination and organizing. Yes, that is part of it, but a high percentage of people that live with OCD, OCD did a study, 67% of people who live with OCD have intrusive thoughts, unwanted, really scary thoughts with mental rituals. And that's what I live with. And we call it pure OCD as a community name for individuals who have this type, so we can feel a little bit more part of a community if we aren't doing kind of your quintessential physical rituals that's usually portrayed in the media or stigmatized by people when they talk about OCD. So for the last few years, I've struggled with intrusive thoughts about being injured. This might seem bizarre. I'm not going to go too much into it, but my experience with OCD, it can latch onto anything. It can latch onto things that are important to me. It can latch onto random things like vomiting. Like I have a terrible fear of vomiting. And it's just in the last few years, it has latched onto this injury that I got on my foot. It's a compensation injury. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just when my form is off, my foot hurts. That's just the bottom line. Lots of us get that, especially for athletes. And you just have to figure out the best way to manage so you aren't injured, right? And sometimes you just deal with it and it hurts for a while and then you do what you need to do. Well, when OCD latches onto something, it is like lighting a fire underneath it. So it isn't just this, oh, today's a bad day with my foot's hurting a little bit. It is, my foot's hurting today. It's never going to be better. I'm never going to be able to run. I don't even want to feel the pain because it's going to tell me that I can never do anything again and my life is over. I can't sustain this. I can't deal with this pain. I'm not going to be able to live. Okay, so that is not an exaggeration. That's what it's like. And I've been dealing with this for a couple of years because typically my OCD revolves around intrusive thoughts that are sexual or violent, things that are just very out of character, I know that they're very obscure. This is real. It's a real pain. It's a real pain. But it's a real pain too. Sorry, I'm not funny. Anyway, so it's real, and that's what's kept me from attacking it with the therapy and the things that I need to do to reduce the compulsions, which help you to manage OCD. With this has come a lot of inactivity, fear. I don't want to go run today because I don't want my foot hurt to remind me that I have an injury and that I can't ever do anything. And I've always been a runner. I've always been an athlete. So I've been struggling for a couple years off and on. It really wasn't until probably at the beginning of this year that I finally just said, I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to do exposure response prevention for this. My PT, my physical therapist was like, Chrissie, you've got to start getting out and doing stuff. Like, screw the OCD, just do it. And I started to do stuff and feeling better. And then the pandemic hit. I had a mix of emotions the first couple months. It was right after an event. We had an event at OCD Game Changers, my nonprofit, the last weekend before everything shut down. So usually when I have that event, it's hard because everybody leaves and I'm sad. This time, everybody left and we turned the TV on and it was like the world has changed. And I didn't know how to deal with that, like many of you. I'm trying to roll with the punches. I'm trying to go with the flow. And there was so much stuff on social media. There's shaming. There's these people feeling this way. It's hard because I live with OCD and the way to manage OCD is face your fears. And I'm walking outside and there's signs going, if you don't stay home, you're going to kill people. It was very weird to see these things as someone who has OCD. You know, I'm hearing all these messages that are contradictory to how I can live to manage OCD. That's a whole other topic. Maybe I'll talk about that next month. But it was hard. And what happened is I fell right back into the injury stuff. I fell right back into despair. There were some days I didn't want to get up and move around. And I started drinking very heavily. I struggle with substance use. And if I am on top of it, I do very well with it. If I'm not, it gets out of control. And more so, I also have a fear of vomit, so that kind of keeps it in check. Long story. But it's still something I know. If I'm using alcohol to be able to cope, then I know that I need to do work and something's wrong. And so I fell into that too. And that and inactivity and in reflection, depression, anxiety, and fear, all of those months, I put on some weight. I felt like I lost a lot of endurance. But I just kept it in. To me, it was, I'm safe inside this little house. Nobody has to see me. I don't have to, but then I had to start seeing myself over video. Okay. And so then I'm seeing my face, and I meet with clients anyway over video, but when you're doing everything over video all the time, and there's all these different cameras, I'm on StreamYard right now, and then I'm on Zoom tomorrow, and I'm on this later today or whatever, like you see yourself differently. And like I said in my video I did on my YouTube channel, like I'm also over 40 and shit starts falling over 40. You really start to notice like things are different, the natural course of aging, and that's totally fine. But when you're focused in on it and you have to see yourself every day, then you start to fixate on it. And I have OCD. And so I started to fixate on things, and I started to avoid mirrors. I couldn't avoid it, but I would somehow meet with people and not at all ever look at myself. And if I did, I would get a surge of anxiety. I would feel differently, like wearing clothes. When I would go out, it was, I didn't want to put on clothes that I used to have. There was just so much stuff that was building and building and building. And I held this in for months, continued to gain weight, continued to feel inactive because of the fear building up. I was using negative coping skills. And just this overwhelming sense of doom. And nobody was talking about it. Everybody was talking about COVID and almost like trauma bonding over having to use Zoom. And I was not, because it was painful. And I was struggling by myself. So fast forward a few months, and we moved into a new house, and it's amazing. Like, energy in a house, by the way, can change your whole world. Our old house, horrible energy. This house, amazing energy. So I started to feel creative again, and I started to get some energy back, and I started to feel a little bit better. But I still felt that honing in on every little inch of me, what I felt like in my skin every single day. I could barely look in the mirror. I could barely see myself. I started to get this distorted image of how I looked, and this distorted image of how I felt like I was being perceived. And it became very obsessive. And one day, and I don't do this, when I'm usually obsessing, I don't tell anybody. And that's bad, by the way, but it's hard because it's shameful. One day I just broke down to my husband, and we were in the middle of making out. So bad. It's true. It's like the most vulnerable time, right? And I literally started having these thoughts of like, he deserves better, and why would he want to be with someone like me? And it was so bombarding. It was like a waterfall was washing over me. And I just kept thinking, like, I don't even want him to touch me, because I don't feel like it's, I don't feel good. And like, literally in like the middle, I just started crying and bawling. And he was like, what is happening? And I just unleashed it. I couldn't anymore. And y'all, I was so embarrassed. I was so ashamed to say out loud, like, I feel like I look awful. I'm scrutinizing everything. I can't look at myself. I feel so awful. I can't. And he just listened and listened. And when I was finished talking and crying, he just said, look, I feel the same way. He was like, I've been inactive. I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like and I was like, are you just saying that? And he was like, no. And he started sharing his thoughts with me about how he's been feeling and not wanting to share it with me because he was afraid to tell me. And then I would think that I should be with someone else. You know how it goes. And I just was like, oh my God, I'm not alone. And even if it's just my husband, I'm not alone in this. And so I started to slowly open up about things. Like when clients would mention stuff, I would slowly open up about it. And I started to hear so much feedback from people saying the same stuff. They were saying, like, having to be over video and staring at myself all day. All I'm doing is looking at flaws. I'm not going out as much. I'm not, as silly as it sounds, maybe people like to go dancing, or they like to go walk around the mall or whatever, and you can't do it anymore. You can't, you can, not necessarily anymore, but it's just so tempered down that people, and then you start to just feel so isolated, which then makes you reach for things that are comforting. Maybe that's food. Maybe that's alcohol. Maybe that's just not getting out and doing anything, because lots of us know that burrowing down sometimes feels the safest. Um, but it was such a relief to get to share these stories with people. And it was relieving to them too, to go, oh my God, I'm not the only one. And then I finally opened up about it. Oh, and the kicker, I think, is really exploring some of this and seeing some of the deep roots it's taken. And sometimes you don't even know the roots are there until you really start digging and pulling them up. One of the thing I love the most about my advocacy are videos. I love doing videos on my YouTube channel because I love talking about the stuff that nobody likes to talk about. And I have stopped doing those. I would trickle one in every once in a while. And that was kind of this proof of, this is real. This is the impact. This is what you've been avoiding, and it's hurting you. It was loss of connection, which is something I'm going to address here in a minute. And that's the loss of connection drove me deeper into that hole of shame and into the hole of substance use too. When I lose connection, that's my coping mechanism. And so I have to be really mindful and maintain that. And it got out of control before I even knew it. So I finally realized that I had to start doing videos again. And that's my exposure response prevention, is doing the videos, even though I don't want to. And not that I don't want to, I'm just scared to. It's weird. I was never scared to do them before. And then now all of a sudden it feels scary because I'm in this place where it's more about, and it's weird too, because it's never been about, like, I don't care what I look like the message, the content is the most important. But it all of a sudden became this scrutiny, and it's been so painful. I've just wanted to avoid it. So I've started doing them again, and it's been fun connecting back to the community. And I've been doing videos on my Instagram, which has been great. And I kind of like came out on one of my Instagram videos talking about all of this and how it's impacted me. And I got a ton of messages from people. And so it's just been on my radar. Body dysmorphic disorder. And again, this is not clinical and at all, but I just want to tell you, like, it is a real disorder. It is where you get so honed in on your appearance and certain things about your appearance, and it becomes obsessive. I hope that I'm not saying this wrong. You don't have to have OCD to have BDD. I could be wrong, and please correct me if I am, but I do believe that's the case. But it's very much a fixation on certain parts of your body that you feel like are flawed. And this pandemic has really, really hurt a lot of people in that realm. And people that maybe have never experienced it before are now experiencing it, and they don't know what to do. There is help. You can get treatment. I would highly suggest going to an anxiety specialist, someone that does treat OCD actually. And they're going to be able to either help you or point you in the direction of someone, but you can get help. Please be aware if this has become something that's less about, I feel gross today. I have bags under my eyes and I'm just not feeling good. And if it's become an all day, every day thing where you're fixating and focused, please go get help. There's help available. And I do want you to know that please don't feel shame or embarrassment or guilt. This is like the era right now. The COVID era is bringing this stuff to light. There were lots of people last week, and in the States, I know that Thanksgiving isn't celebrated all over the world, but the holidays are approaching, and you're going to see people, if you're not locked down. And it's scary for people, because then it's this, I don't look the way that lots of us kind of struggle with that body image stuff anyway, but this year in particular, because we have gotten out of the routine of just seeing people regularly. So there just feels like I said before, kind of a spotlight coming on us when we go out, and the spotlight is going to go to all the things that you feel like are flawed or people are looking at. But I wrote a couple things down that have helped me, and I want to share them with you. First of all, you are not alone in this. And I know that is a cliche. That is a cliche tagline, but I am telling you that you aren't 100%. And people are scared to talk about this. They're scared to talk about this, number one, because they don't want to admit. It's almost like, well, I don't want to admit that I'm having body image issues because that might mean it's true, or I don't want other people to know that I've gained weight, or I just feel bad, or I'm feeling this way, or I'm, but you're not alone. This is hard shit to talk about. There's so much shame around it. There's so much guilt. There's so much embarrassment. There's so, a lot of times people are defining how they look as their worth. And so to think that you could have the audacity to say out loud that you're not picture perfect, is that even a thing? But, according to your own standards or whatever, you may believe that's talking about your worth, and it might reflect your worth. I think that's manufactured worth, just FYI. Worth that's a whole other topic for another. But a lot of times, if your worth is hinging on how you look, definitely trace where that came from and why. Because chances are you have so many attributes, you have so many wonderful things about you that really define your worth to yourself and other people. And I know it's easy to get caught up in how you look, your body size, that is part of your worth, and I get it. But you are so much more than maybe what you've been taught, or maybe what the world has taught you in that regard. So that's the first thing I wanted to say is, chances are, if you're going out and feeling like you have a spotlight on you, the people you're going out with are probably feeling it too. And it just might be too hard to bring up and to talk about. But sometimes it helps to know that it's hard to kind of come out of the space that you've been in, hibernating in almost, and present yourself to the world. So you're not alone in that. The second is move. Get up and move. And first of all, I'm not saying this again. This is not about, I want to make sure that I'm not getting into a lane of like talking about eating disorders, and I'm not giving you like advice on what you should or shouldn't do regards to weight. What I'm telling you is, what I'm speaking to today is, when we get trapped in our homes, in our minds, in our worlds that become so small, the best thing we can do is move. What I mean is, get out of that room, get out of the space that's keeping you stuck here. If that means just walking around the block, if that means there's a trailhead and just go walk and get some fresh air, get a new perspective. One of the things I noticed during the pandemic was, when I would stay in my house for like 4 or 5 days, because it was stay at home at that point, when I went to the grocery store, I would be like, oh my God, like there's people, there's life. You know what I mean? And it's almost like I forgot they were there. And it gave me this perspective of like, I've just been stuck here so long. I need to move and see other people. I need to see life is going on. I need to see cars driving down the road. I need to see people hiking. I need to see that stuff is going on. And the best way to do that is break out of where you're stuck. Move out of that. And sometimes, like for me, we've got this hill outside the house, and I might just go walk up the hill a few times, get my mind focused on like pain in my quads. You know what I mean? Like, if my quads are hurting, I'm not thinking about whatever else is going on. So yes, in the realm of when you are stuck, move out of that stuck position. you might not want to get on a bus or get on an Uber, but do something to get out of the scenery you're seeing right now. It can open up your perspective. Another thing is, and this is a shitty one, sorry, but it's just sometimes I have to hang on to it. It's not going to be like this forever. You know, we in the grand scheme of things, it's only been 8 months. I may be wrong on the math. It's probably going to last many more months, but it's not going to be this way forever. We will normalize. We will figure this out. And sometimes I just think to myself, okay, if it's not going to be like this forever, then that's the next thing. What can I do to make choices inside the time that I am going to be in this very big world of uncertainty? What are the choices that I can make every day to prepare for when it's different? To me, I had a really wise, wonderful friend tell me one time, like, there are always choices. You just have to find them. You know, you may get to a spot where you think, oh my God, there's only like one choice, and there may be two. And she's like, no, there's always 3 or 4 choices. The problem is they're just not there in front of you. Sometimes you just have to look for different choices. So what can you do inside the next few 5, 6, 7, 8 months? I mentioned earlier, sometimes you can prepare in advance. We already know what it feels like to stay at home. And yes, some of us have very bad memories of that. But what are some things that can help and be helpful if that happens again? How can we prepare for it so our mind is better ready for, instead of, oh my God, when is this going to stop? Okay, I'm here. What can I do every single day to do the best I can? I'm not saying be positive, by the way. You don't have to be positive. I'm not going to be positive, and that's okay too. I don't have to cultivate positivity every day to live my best life. And so what I'm saying is, how can we best prepare? Even if that's preparing for the negativity, how can we be ready for it so it doesn't hit us and we don't know what to do when it does? Lastly, talk to someone. Like I've stated today, my biggest issue was that I was keeping it in and I was miserable for months. I was too scared to tell people. Talk to people. Find someone in your life that you can trust. Tell them how you need them to respond. Say, I don't want you to tell me that I look great, or I'm pretty, or you haven't lost weight, or like you haven't done this, you haven't done that, you look this way. This is how. No, tell them, I don't want to hear this. I need to talk to you about something and teach them how to support you. Or you might know somebody that has been open. Talk to them. The best thing that I ever did was tell my husband. That was so hard for me to do, and I was so afraid of his reaction. And his reaction was empathy, and he felt the same way. And now it's been hard, but we can joke about it. Not in a joking way that's like making fun of how we feel, but just like bringing some humor in on it, which pulls the shame out of it. We're still very sensitive and do not cross the line of hurting each other's feelings at all. But, you know, he's a comedian too, so he's really funny. But we can talk about it. Or if I'm just really having a bad day and I can sit down and say, I want to tell you this, and he listens, and it feels better to have someone just listen. You know, reach out to different groups, maybe on social media here on Mental Health on the Mighty. Hopefully I haven't looked, but maybe they, you know, posting blogs and some information on this, so people can really feel like they're being heard, or that they have a platform where they can open up without feeling kind of that shame around it. And then, you know, thank you. I was just about to say that. Yay! Our OCD Peers groups. We are going to be posting up some new groups coming up soon: COVID support, anxiety support, things like that. So being in a group and being able to share with people that you can trust, that's safe and secure, go check us out at ocdpeers.com. Even, you know, there are certain groups that we have, like self-love and stuff like that. You're more than welcome to join those. just to be around supportive people. So yeah, there are things that we can do. It's important to remember that these are hard times. You're not alone in that, but we can make choices every single day. We can, we're going to keep moving, keep remembering and seeing what goes on in your community. It may feel isolating, and you may feel like sometimes when I get into that mindset, I'm like, I don't want to leave the room. I think, oh my gosh, maybe I could just have a glass of wine and it would feel better, things like that. And I just make the choice. And I go, actually, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive to the gas station and fill my car up with gas. And I see people and I see life. And I'm like, okay, that's right. There's life outside of this bedroom. and then I'm like, okay, I'm out now. Should I go over to Mount Herman and just go for a quick hike or something, get my blood pumping, or should I go and pick up a coffee and even just sit in my car and watch people go through the drive-through because you're just seeing people? I don't know. Make the choice to still be engaged. I said earlier, and I'm going to finish on this, connection is so important during this time. We can't lose connection. And I know connection feels weird when it's over Zoom or it's over a video, but we're connecting here today. And it's important to know that what you're going through is not just you. And it feels that way sometimes, but it's not. And sometimes that's all that can change your entire day, is receiving a little, post back or something saying, oh my gosh, I get it. I understand. And then you're like, wow, someone's walking alongside me. Well, I'm going to tell you something. We're all walking together. One of the hardest things about this pandemic as an advocate has been, I became an advocate because I survived something, and I feel like I'm able to provide that normalization for people when they're walking through OCD, and I can walk alongside them and I can say, me too. The pandemic has been hard because I cannot say that. I don't know what it's like to walk through a pandemic. I don't know what it's like to reflect and go, yep, I remember that, because I'm right here. Right? So it's important to understand, I'm walking with you. You're walking with me. We don't know what 10 feet ahead looks like. The important part is we're all walking together. And that is connection. That is community. And I hope that we can all realize that if you fall behind, there's still going to be people there too. Because no one can jump ahead and see what's going on. We're just all walking the same path. So remember that if you're struggling. Please reach out for help if you're struggling with this. Body image, BDD, the things that kind of the pandemic are really exacerbating, please get help. Don't wait until you are just so closed off and stuck. And you might be there too. Still reach out. That's a choice you can make. And thank you for letting me talk about this today. I'm a little nervous still, and I'm still a little nervous to be on video. But I appreciate the opportunity to share. I hope that it made sense. And I also want to emphasize that, again, this is not clinical, and this is not me giving advice on what you should and shouldn't do in regards to body weight. I'm just merely giving some suggestions of things that helped me to just kind of make choices and remember that I'm part of a bigger community, and remember that this isn't going to last forever. And we're going to get there. We're going to get through the path, and we're going to walk all together. And then we will reflect back on this, and we will remember the next time this happens. Hopefully it won't be our lifetime, but you never know. At least we'll know what to do. So thank you so much. Mental Health on the Mighty, thank you for always having me. It's always a pleasure to be able to share my lived experience with people who I know just get it. For you and your loved ones, I hope that you have a safe and happy holiday season. This time of year can be really tough. If you are looking for something for connection, my nonprofit OCD Game Changers, you don't have to have OCD to come, because it's not about OCD. We're doing this. I did these fireside chats with all these people at the beginning, trying to figure out like how we're going to get through this. We're doing this huge event on October 12th. No, December 12th, not October, December 12th, on our OCD Game Changers Facebook page and our YouTube channel. We're streaming live December 12th, 8 p.m. And we're going to have over 20 people come on and check in and talk about what they've learned, how they're coping, what's going on with them in regards to COVID. I was inspired by Rudy Caceres, yay, and his event that he did. It's going to be a really fun, exciting night. I hope you'll join us. It's free. It is a fundraiser, but it's free to join. And you might feel really normalized and connected when you hear all these different opinions about where people are, how they're coping, because that's what we want. We want you to feel part of something. So join us live December 12th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, OCD Game Changers Facebook page or our YouTube channel. And if you're looking for OCD therapists or therapy, NOCD does OCD treatment in all 50 states. That's treatmyocd.com. They do exposure response prevention. So thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to seeing you in January. Have a safe and happy holiday season. And thank you again for letting me come on and share my thoughts.